Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. This is going to be my makeup palette collection. This is going to include my eyeshadow palettes, and then in my drawer under it I have more face palettes and my bigger eyeshadow palettes. So I'm going to show you guys that. This is the third drawer from the top of my IKEA drawers. This is the one that you guys saw with all of my powders and concealers. Right under there we have the ColourPop singles and the eyeshadow palettes, and then sorry, the baby gets into this sometimes, but we have the other eyeshadow brushes. So then this is the main drawer where I keep almost all of my eyeshadow palettes, and we're just gonna go ahead and get started. Before I do though, I just want to kind of quickly add that this has grown over the years. I didn't just buy all of these, and I do not pay full price for any of these. I always wait for a sale or a coupon, and then I also use Rakuten, which gives you cash back for any online orders, which I love because I get to use that money and kind of invest it back into makeup because that's just what I enjoy. It's a really nice way for me to get creative with makeup, and it's just something that I like. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started with my first palette. We're gonna work our way down this way. So this is the Dose of Colors eyeshadow palette, and this is the Friendcation from Desi and Katie. This is such a beautiful palette. It is a magnetic closure and it is just so pretty. I love everything about it. I reach for this palette a lot actually, and I can do a whole look with just this palette. So it's definitely my go-to, and I don't regret getting that at all. The next one is going to be an Anastasia palette. So this is the Alyssa Edwards palette. I don't think they make this anymore, but I'm sure when Marshalls and like TJ Maxx opens up, they will have these palettes because I know I've seen them there. And they are like $24 or something like that. But it's just so pretty. I've used it a couple times, and every time I've used it, I've loved the look. So I cannot get enough of this palette, and I love the bright colors in there. Then we're going to get this one, which is another Anastasia palette. This is the Sultry palette. It is so pretty packaging wise. I love everything about it. This is more on a cooler toned like spectrum. There is like two warm tones, which is that one and that one, but other than that, it's a very cool toned palette, which is why I don't use the mattes as much. But the shimmers I love everything about the shimmers, so I do use those a lot, and that's pretty much what I use this palette for, is the shimmers. Really like this palette. I don't know if they still make it, but if they do and you're into cool tones, that's a really good palette to get. Now this is the first Anastasia palette that I ever bought, and I loved this palette. When I first got it, I used it all the time. I still use it from time to time, but not as much as I used to. It's just really pretty, and it's a really nice like summer fall palette, and I love it. I still do. I use it, like I said, from time to time. Then we're gonna reach into my Too Faced palettes. This is the Too Faced Chocolate Bar palette, and I have not used this palette as much as I've wanted to, but it is still a really pretty palette. And again, it's a little bit more on the cooler tone, so if you are into cool tones, I'm sure you would like this. It smells like chocolate. I think everybody knows that by now. But it's a good palette. I wish I would reach for it more, and I don't. And I'm going to make an effort into using it a lot more this year. We have the Too Faced Cat Eyes palette. And this one is a palette that I liked when I got, and then realized that I don't actually use these type of colors. So I keep it around because I really like using this shade Classic and Kitty Glitter. Yeah, Kitty Glitter. I love those two shades, and honestly, that's why I keep it around. I'll use Purr every once in a while as a highlight color, but I honestly just keep it for those two shades right there. Then we have the Too Faced Natural Matte palette, and they still make this one. They just have changed the packaging since then, and it's actually a lot prettier, but it is a little bit bulkier. I like this palette a lot. I use it more for strapless and these shades right there, but oh, and chocolate cookie is a really nice color too. These, again, I don't use this much because they are on a cooler tone. I don't find cool tones to look that great on me. They have to be very specific, or else they can look like mud on my skin tone. So I don't use cooler tones as much, but I do use these right here, and then the warmer toned mattes. And then we're going to go into the Sigma palettes. This is the Sigma Warm Neutrals Volume 2 palette. This is one of my absolute favorite palettes. I reach for this all of the time. It's just a go-to palette. I love everything about it. The only thing that it doesn't have for me is a matte cream eyeshadow. This is actually has some shimmer in it, so it's a good highlighting color, but that's honestly the only thing that's missing. Other than that, I use it all of the time. It's a really nice palette, and they still make this palette till this day. This is one of my first Sigma palettes that I ever got. This is the Brilliant and Spellbinding palette. I don't know if they still make this one in particular, but I don't honestly use this as much. I bought it because I fell into the hype of Sigma when it was really big at the time. And this palette was, for some reason, really popular. Again, a lot of cool tones that I don't use. There are a lot of cool tone shimmers. So I'm going to try to use it more this year. And if it doesn't work out, I'm going to see if one of my family members likes it and they'll use it more than I do. All right, so now we're going to get into the ColourPop collection. This is the California Love palette, and it is a very pretty palette. I haven't gotten as much use out of it as I would like, but again, this is one of the palettes that's on my list to use more this year because it has beautiful shades and a lot of shades that I use on the daily. So I need to actually reach for this more and give it a fair shot, but it is a pretty palette. The times that I've used it, I've liked the looks. This is the Sweet Talk palette, and this one is one of my favorites from them. I use it all the time, and anytime I've used it, I've gotten compliments on my eye looks, so I don't regret this one at all. The packaging is pretty too. This is one of my newer palettes. I just got this in the mail last week, so this baby just got added. I've only used this once, but the one time I used it, the eye look came out super easy, super simple, and I loved it, and I can't wait to play with this more. I think it's sold out right now, but they will bring it back, and it's just such a beautiful palette, and the colors are right up my alley of what I use. Then we have the Chasing Rainbows palette. This one still has a sleeve because it's so pretty. and just a nice palette. I actually do have a purple eye look using this palette. It's still on my channel somewhere, but it's a really pretty shadow palette. Sorry about that. The kids are playing around right now. Obviously everyone's at home, and it's my day off, so they're all here right now. But this is the Midnight Masquerade palette. I showed this in one of my hauls. Love this palette. I use it all the time. The only shade that I have not used is the two chunky glitter shades. Honestly, I just haven't been in the mood to use a chunky glitter. They take a lot of work and they're not actually eye safe, so I just haven't used them. But I love this palette and I actually use it a lot. It doesn't look like it, but I do use it and I have used it quite a few times. So love that palette. This is the only Tarte eyeshadow palette that I own, and this is the Volume 2 Clay Play. That is what this one looks like. I loved using this for like a quick, I need something and I don't want to rummage through everything. It has a highlighter, a blush, a bronzer, has your mattes, and I love this palette a lot. The only thing that I wish it did have would be a dark brown. This is a cool toned brown. Again, you guys know that I'm not into that, so I do wish that this had that, but overall this is a very nice neutral palette and it smells really good actually. And then we are going to get into the Urban Decay. As you guys know, I am obsessed with Urban Decay. For some reason, their stuff really appeals to me. And I collect their eyeshadow palettes. At least the ones that appeal to me. So I have quite a bit of a arrangement of them. So let's get into it with, this is the Light Beam eyeshadow palette. And that is what it looks like right there. I honestly only bought this because of Golden Hour. It's just a really pretty color and I've worn it a couple times and I've loved it every single time. Again, I don't know if they still make this one, but I really liked it and I don't regret it at all. Honestly, I don't think I regret any of my Urban Decay palettes. This one is the Naked Basics 2. I actually got this for Christmas one year. I used to use Primal for my eyebrows all of the time back in the day, and honestly I don't use it anymore, but I keep it around just because it was a Christmas present and it means a lot to me, so I do keep that one around. Let's start from the back and we'll work our way forward. So I have the Naked palette right here, and it's actually a little scratch from the screw on the inside of the drawer. Anyways, this is just the original Naked palette. I got this when they were discontinuing the original Naked palette. I think I got it for like $17. I knew I wouldn't use it as much, but it was just one of those palettes that I needed to have in my collection because when I first started with makeup, I always wanted it, and at the time it was out of my price range. So it was just, one of those FOMO moments, and I just felt like I needed it, especially since they were discontinuing it. And I've only used it a couple times, but I'm still happy that I got it, and it's something that I always really just could never afford at the time, and now that I could, I wanted it, especially since they're discontinuing it, or it is discontinued now. This is the Naked Urban Decay Heat palette. I use this one all of the time. I also did a haul on this one. Just such a pretty palette, and I love warm shades, and this pretty much feeds that warm shade craving, and I use that all of the time. We have the Naked Cherry palette. and that feeds all of my reddish and like pink tone craving. I love warm tones and I love pink tones and reddish tones. So this one is just really pretty. I use it quite a bit. The only shade I don't like, I think it was Privacy from this palette. I think that was the only shade that I never really reached for. Other than that, everything else in this palette is great and I love so much. And we have Naked Smoky palette. This one I don't reach for as much as I wish I did, but it does have a lot of smoky shades and cooler tones, which again I bought when I didn't know I didn't like cool tones, but I do keep it around because this shimmer shade is so pretty and I actually use it all of the time. I get a lot of compliments for that shimmer, which it doesn't look like much, but for some reason it just looks so pretty on the eyes. So I use that all the time, and then I do use the mattes over here. So that is why I keep it around. And sorry if you guys catch a reflection of me in the background. I look extra not put together, but I'm home on my day off in my pajamas, and I just want to chill for today. This is the, I think it's Jean Michael Basquiat palette. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to get my hands on the entire collection like I wanted, but I did end up getting this palette right here, and I love it. I use it quite a bit for these three shades up here. Such a good, like just matte shadows that I love using, and I love this palette a lot actually. So put that back. We have the Urban Decay. I believe this is the Reloaded palette. They still make this from what I know. It's just in a different packaging. So they have updated the packaging. Love this palette for Maui Wowie and Polyester Bride. Chopper and Sin are also really beautiful colors. And I actually love this palette so much that I bought Maui Wowie as a single, so I do use that a lot. Alright, sorry guys, the kids, like I said, are here and they're just kind of coming in and out of the room. So this is the Urban Decay. I actually don't remember what this one was called. I don't see it on the back of this either, but does it say? Oh, yep, Shadow Box. This is the Urban Decay Shadow Box. And that is what it looks like. I just love this palette, and I use it quite a bit actually. A lot more than I thought I was going to use it. Then we have the Nocturnal Shadow Box. And I honestly bought this for one shadow and one shadow only, and that was Launch right there. The single shadows are $20 each, I think. So the fact that this palette I was on sale for like $20 and I got it and I wanted that shade right there, Launch, it made it worth it for me. I also use ABC Gum a lot. Midnight Cowboy Rice again is a beautiful color. Baby is amazing, and Delete. So those are my most used eyeshadows used out of this palette, and again, don't regret it. I'm not sure if they still make this one, but if they do, it's a really good palette if you were looking for those colors. Pulp Fiction was a limited edition palette. I've never watched the movie, unfortunately, but this is what the shadows look like. This was my go-to palette for the matte cream and the matte mid-tone brown. Love this palette, and you can tell there's a big old dip in there because I used it so much. So really like that palette, and I still use it from time to time. Now we're going to get into the bigger ones. This is the Moon Dust Urban Decay palette. Such a nice, pretty glitter color scheme. This is their Moondust eyeshadows pretty much put into a palette, and I like it a lot. I use it. It is a little bit harder to use, so I don't use it as much, but when I have the time to do my makeup, this is something that I do reach for, and I used during like New Year's or Christmas or, you know, special times like that. This is the After Dark palette, and this was like a newer formula for them, and I just had to have it. It is a really pretty color scheme, and I use it from time to time when I'm looking for, you know, blues or purples, something like that. And it does have my favorite shade, which is Lounge, as you guys know. So a pretty palette. Again, I don't know if they make these anymore. A lot of these were limited edition, but I love them. This is the Electric palette, which I know they do not make anymore. They replaced this with the Wired palette, if I'm correct. I didn't buy that because I do own this one, and a lot of the shades are pretty much the same. Love this palette. I've used this for, again, special occasions like Halloween, Christmas, New Year's. Really like this palette, and I think I've used every shade besides Thrash. Other than that, everything I have used before, and I love that one. For the brights, this is the Smoky Urban Decay palette, and this one I actually have not used as much as I wish that I would have. And it still has the pencil in there. But if I ever do want to do a smoky eye, I know I can reach for this and get a really good look. So that's why I keep it around. And again, it's just really hard for me to get rid of Urban Decay stuff just because I love it so much, and a lot of these are limited edition and I will never be able to get my hands on again. So I keep them around. This is the Born to Run Urban Decay palette. This one's actually a really nice palette. You can travel with it. It has almost anything you could possibly want. It has a couple of cooler tones. It has some warm tones. It has light shades, dark shades. The only thing missing out of this palette would be like a light cream shade. Weekender is pretty light, but not as light as I would like. But it does work. And I could definitely get a whole look from just this one palette. And I really like it, and I use it a lot actually. I try to use a different palette every time I do my makeup. That's the only way that I can get through all of these and use them enough, is by using a different eyeshadow palette every single time, and kind of trying to keep it conscious that, you know, try to rotate them all. This is one of the three, actually. I have 3 of the Make Your Own palettes. Again, I don't think they make any of these anymore. They might make the smaller one, but just the palette itself, not with the single that they used to come with. And this is just filled with single eyeshadows that are mixed around. There's glitters, there's the Moondust. These are all Moondust eyeshadows. The duos that they used to make. So really like those. And then this is the Wizard of Oz palette. And this one I can do, again, a whole eye look with just this one palette. So I do use this for travel purposes if I need to. It just has everything that I could honestly want in a palette. So I do keep that one around. Then we're going to get into the last 2 palettes from this drawer. This is the Kristen Leanne palette. And it looks like a disaster. And it's because my baby got into it and he just demolish these shades, and it's such a shame because I love the way that these shadows were formulated. I tried to clean it up as much as I could, and most of them are pretty usable. The only ones that really got ruined are these really light shades, but I'm sure once I scrape far enough I could get back into the regular color. Again, just a nice palette. I love the brights in there, and the formula is different than a lot of the other ones. So, oh look, I have glitter everywhere. This is the Shattered Face Case. They had, I think, 2 of these, and I was only able to get my hands on one of them. But that is what it looks like. It had the, oh, actually this from this one right here, but it did come with one of the super saturated colors. I don't remember what color it was. And then these are the shades. You know, on the cooler side, again, don't use it as much. I did use these right there. And then the bottom drawer is actually, or section is the one that I used the most, and that is the blushes. I used the blushes so much. The highlighter I love, and I actually almost hit pan on this one. I don't know if you can see the dent in the video, but I used the shade so much, and honestly I still reach for it just for this shade alone because it looks so flawless on the skin, and I don't know why, but I love that shade so much. So that is the Urban Decay Shattered Face Case, and that is all of the palettes in this section. We're gonna scoot right under. And this is the bigger palettes and face palettes. So let's see if I can move the camera around and we'll show you this section. All right, I'm in a really weird position, so hopefully this works. But I'm gonna go ahead and get started. These are all like larger eyeshadow palettes, and then I have some face palettes right here. So let's get started with this section right here. This is the Naked Urban Decay On The Run. I have taken all of the stuff from these. It came with a mascara, a lip gloss, and a liner. I honestly don't use this as much as I wish I did. This shadow is actually really beautiful, so I do reach for it for this one. But honestly, that's about it. I wish I reached for it more, and it's going to be on my list to reach for more often this year. This is the, what is this one? The Tribe by Julia's Place. This is a very nice green eyeshadow palette, and I have used this and I've gotten some really good green eye looks with it, and I love it. We have the Nubian 2. Again, a really nice palette. I am not a huge fan of their mattes, which is why I only have 2 of them. I do love their shimmers, and I mean, their mattes are nice. They're just a little bit harder to work with, and you have to have a little bit more time to really blend them out. So that's why I've only gotten 2. I do enjoy them and I do use them. Not as much, but I do try to reach for them quite a bit. And I use them more for like my colorful eyeshadow looks. This is the Bare Necessities palette. I did a get ready with me with this palette, and I love this palette. It does give you a little bit more kickback than, you know, like other palettes, but I love it. It has everything you could possibly want, from mattes to shimmers to cools to warms, and I can do a whole look with this, as I've shown in one of my videos before. One of the best purchases I have done. This is the Morphe palette, the 35M, and this was actually a Christmas gift. I've only used this once, but it has, like I said, anything you could want besides a cream white matte color that you guys know that I need and love in a palette. And unfortunately this one doesn't have that, but it does have those greens and warm tones, and honestly, like, I can get a pretty good eye look out of this. I feel like Morphe's shimmers have always been very lackluster, which is a bummer because they look beautiful in the pan, but I just could never get them to translate that way on my eyes, and that may be just a personal thing. Their mattes are really good, and I enjoy this palette. I've only used it a couple times. Then we have, I'm gonna put that to the side, the Jaclyn Hill palette, and this was before she was a controversy. This was the original launch from Ulta, so I have the one with the shades on the back, and like I said, this is the very first launch that she did with Ulta, so I'm pretty sure this is the original formula. I don't know what's going on. I paid, money for this, so I'm going to keep it around. I have used this a ton, and I love the mattes in this palette. I always get a beautiful look anytime I use the mattes. I don't know how the formula is nowadays, so I can't attest to how it would perform now. But the original formula, I loved the mattes. Not so much again with the shimmers, because like I said, for some reason their shimmers have always been very lackluster, but their mattes, this palette, I think they're just outstanding to me personally. We have the Vice palette next, another Urban Decay palette. I've used this palette a lot, especially when I first got it. This was like my go-to palette. And then I was watching a YouTuber, I don't remember her name, but she did a beautiful look with this palette, and now I need to recreate it. So I'm gonna try that sometime soon, whenever I feel like wearing makeup again. And this is the Too Faced Stardust Vegas Nay palette, and this was like one of the first like brands that did a collab with somebody, so I don't know, I thought it was interesting at the time. I use this more for like the purples, honestly, and that's pretty much all I reached for. I used Millennial and Girls Night here and there, but the purples was really the only reason why I bought this. Purples were really hard to get back then, so a palette that had purples was like good purples was hard to find. And again, I got it on sale, so I can't pass up a good deal. Back here we have more shadows, and these are just palettes that I don't reach for as much. This is the Nude Tude palette. This was just one of those palettes that I fell into the hype, and I don't really like as much as I thought I would, so that's why it's back there hiding. This is the first high-end palette that I ever got. As you can tell, my kid got to it, but this one was used, like abused. I loved this palette, and I used it, and I keep it around because it's sentimental to me. It's the first, high-end palette that I ever could afford, and I love it. And the formula has changed because it is like 10 years old now, but I keep it around because it's nice to look at it. I don't know. This is, if I can open it, a blush palette from BH Cosmetics, and I only keep this around in case I ever have to do like somebody's makeup, and my hair's on it. Beautiful. I don't do people's makeup, but sometimes my family members reach out to me and they want me to do their makeup, so that's the only reason why I keep this around. All right, so I have very limited time since the baby just woke up, so I'm going to show you guys the last of the shadows, or palettes I should say, because these aren't shadows. This is the Kat Von D Shade and Light palette. I bought this at Marshall's for like $15 or $20. One of my favorite palettes. Unfortunately, she's like a different brand, or not a brand anymore. I don't know what's going on. I don't get into the drama. I really like this palette, and it was definitely worth the hype because I use it all of the time. I'm gonna be sad when I don't have that palette anymore. This is part of that Jean Michael Basquiat collection that I was able to get my hands on. Love this palette, love the highlighter. I use this all of the time, and it's definitely in my rotation of blushes. This is the Luminizer Squad, I should say, from the Balm. This one was a disappointment, to say the least. This was just, that Mary Luminizer shade was so hyped, and like, you guys know I just recently started to get into highlighters, so when I got Mary Luminizer, I was honestly really disappointed because it wasn't that amazing. I love my Wet n Wild shadow or highlighters so much more. So you know, they're all nice, but nothing to do with like the highlighters that you see nowadays. So if you're more into like a natural looking highlighter, you will like this so much. I just like a little bit more wow if I'm actually going to take the time to do highlighter. Anyways, this is my Too Faced Natural Face Palette, and love this one. My mom actually had this first, and I tried it one time and I was like, I need this. So I waited for it to go on sale, and I got my hands on it, and I use it all the time. It also has the smell to it, but I don't mind it, and I use it all the time. Hi, baby. This is the Anastasia Glow Kit, and this one has like funky highlighters, so don't use it as much, but it's a pretty palette, and I think I paid like $16 at Marshall's for it, and it was worth it, because if I ever want a funky highlighter or like an inner corner highlight, this is definitely a go-to. This one I think I showed in, I don't remember if I showed this one in my videos yet, but this is the Tarte blush palette, Tartlet, one of the Tartlet books. Just a very pretty arrangement of colors. I use pretty much everything besides the bronzer, just because I'm not into like shimmer bronzers. But other than that, I love everything about this one, and I don't regret buying it. Then we have the Saharan Blush Palette. Again, really nice. Hi, baby. I use the oranges the most. These right here. But a very nice overall blush palette. Sorry, guys. He just woke up and he wants to have a conversation. Alright guys, sorry about that. This is the Sculpt Highlighting Contour Palette, and this is just a perfect contouring palette. It has your highlights and it has your perfect contours. I love this palette and I reach for it all of the time. If I don't use this one, I use the Kat Von D and vice versa. Then we have the Sigma Blush Cheek Palette, and it is, again, my go-to for blushes. It has such nice colors, and I use this all of the time. And that is it, guys. That is what my palette collection looks like. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. Sorry that it was a little rushed, but I have had so much trouble filming this section for some reason, and I don't know why, but I am exhausted because I've tried filming this so many times, and in the weirdest, like, I'm squatting right now and I'm in so much pain. So I'm gonna get going, and I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Stay safe, everybody, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.